Good morning, gentlemen. We're going to start today by looking at the quotes that I gave you for yesterday's task. Remember that I said yesterday, or I wrote it on the lesson, that quotations, quotes, that's the things that characters actually say in a film, can be considered film techniques, and that's called dialogue. So anything that a character says to another character is dialogue, and it's the words, the script that has been given to the characters and planned by the director to make the story go along, to tell us all sorts of important things about the characters and to show us really important ideas, which is our themes, remember. So we're going to look at these quotes in a bit more detail, and we'll continue talking about quotes as a useful film technique for discussing in terms of being evidence to support points about themes. So when you're writing your body paragraphs, when you did your Romeo and Juliet essays, you actually were required to put in a written quote from the text, and you had to copy it out exactly because that was what Shakespeare wrote. In a film essay, you can't write down words that are written words because this is not a written text. A film is a visual text and an oral text, one that you see and you hear. And so you have to use instead these techniques that we've been looking at, techniques like camera shots and sound and also dialogue, quotations. So let's look at this first one. You had 4 questions to answer about them. The first quote is Teddy. He's speaking to the other boys. It's in the leeches scene where they're dunking each other because they've just gone way deeper than they thought that puddle was going to be, and they're kind of having a bit of fun. And this piece of dialogue can be used as evidence to support any point you might be wanting to make about the theme of growing up. In this scene, the thing that Teddy says, which is here, I am acting my age. I'm in the prime of my life and I'll only be young once. This shows us that Teddy's aware that they're leaving their childhoods behind and that they should make the most of it. Remember that this film is in that summer before kids start high school and just after they've finished what we call intermediate school. So you guys have just done that. Your last summer was your final summer at your primary school or your intermediate school, which you were familiar with. You were one of the senior students, and you knew that at the end of the summer you'd be starting Auckland Grammar School and you'd be starting a high school which would be quite different and potentially quite challenging. And so these boys are very aware they're in that same kind of place in their lives. Okay, so let's have a look at the next quote. So who is this character? It's Chris. And it's obvious that it's Gordy that he's talking to because that's part of his actual quote. And it's in the dead body scene. And what is it showing us? What do you think that this quote could be used to illustrate? The idea of what? What's Chris doing as he says that to Gordy? He's supporting him, isn't he? He's being supportive. He's being a great friend. So you could say this piece of dialogue illustrates the important idea or theme, remember they're the same thing, of friendship and how getting through tough situations is easier with friends at your side. Okay, that's the kind of the thing that I wanted you to write down there. So this is the sort of analytical thinking I want you to be doing with the different bits and pieces that we're looking at as we go through the film. Finally today, on GrammarNet, you will see that I've got a key question that I want you to be answering, and I want you to do this in a written form, and I want to be able to see it. So you will see that there are instructions about how to type your answers to this key question into the Due Workbox. Now, we haven't used the Due Workbox before. We've used Google Classroom, but I'm going to make the switch because the rest of the school is using the Due Workbox, and you are probably using that in your other classes as well. So I want you to write a paragraph about the viaduct scene. Tomorrow we're going to move away from the scenes we've already done, and we're going to look at the end scene, I'm hoping. But what I want you to do about the viaduct scene is a description of what happens, and I want you to identify at least 2 film techniques. A shot type, camera shot type, dialogue, or a sound. Actually, let's make this the viaduct scene. I've called it a sequence, but I'm going to call it scene, or the dead body scene. And I want you to make sure that you have a good explanation of how each technique that you choose, and remember, there need to be 2 of them, and I want you to explain how that technique helps us to understand a character or an idea. What is it telling us about the character? How is it developing an idea? And you'll probably be writing about the idea of growing up, the idea of friendship. Okay, good luck and have a good day.